2024 has been a really rough year for gaming. We've seen countless studios shut down, layoffs, employees just leaving, and massive games like Concord just flop really hard. To say it's been rough isn't really doing it justice, but on one hand, watching these massive corporations make the same mistakes over and over again is, kind of funny, but it's also very scary. While these massive studios hold a lot of power over the industry, the indie market is growing just as strong as ever. Games like Animal Well are a testament to what can be accomplished by one person. It's proof that you don't need a ton of gigabytes or a ton of fancy graphics and deep mechanics to just have a good game and a community form around it. I've made a whole video about Animal Well and why I love it so much. You can click the little icon and watch that if you want. For now, I want to talk about a game that came out this year that started with critical success but seems to have fallen off recently. I really enjoy this game and I've given it quite a bit of money, so I'd like to see it succeed so I can get my money's worth. It's the first game that I've really gotten into in, well, a long time. You see, I got into Animal Well and I played through it once, found all the secrets except for the time capsule, no thank you, and I pretty much just moved on. But around the same time, another game came out that has simply occupied so much of my time over the past few months. After watching Concord fail miserably and some other recent articles about this game, I worry about its future, and as you can tell from the title, I am talking about XDefiant. XDefiant is a Ubisoft game, boo! That was developed by old Call of Duty pros and developers, notably Mark Rubin, the executive producer on Modern Warfare 2, and Ghost. Not the new ones, like the old ones, good stuff. Ghost is actually one of my favorite Call of Duty games. Hot take, I know. So to see the executive producer from that game working on this one is really, really cool. Not only that, but the devs are super open and transparent about what they're working on and the issues that the game has, which is really rare in gaming today, especially in bigger companies who see their players as dollar signs rather than a community to uphold. Ubisoft is really no different once you get down to it, but the team working on XDefiant seems to have a genuine passion for the players and the game they've built. XDefiant just gets a lot right. It's an arena-based, fast-paced first-person shooter that pulls from several Ubisoft franchises for its maps, characters, and overall theme. Because of this, the game almost seems to not take itself too seriously. The maps are fun, the characters can look goofy, and it all makes sense. It's essentially Ubisoft Smash Bros, if that makes any sense. We've got everything from Tom Clancy to Tom Clancy to Tom Clancy, to Far Cry, back to Tom Clancy. There's a lot of Tom Clancy. There's a lot there. I hear they're going to be adding Assassin's Creed in the next season or so that'll be pretty neat to see. The point is that the game pulls from these themes in pretty fun ways. While some maps are bright and colorful, others are rugged and pretty serious. That's a lot of fun, and it doesn't really take me out of the experience. For example, Call of Duty had this problem for a while where the maps that launched with the game were super serious, but then the DLC maps were really goofy looking, and it took me out of the game for a while. I'm all for creative expression, and I do think the devs making maps that are fun and unique is good, but I can't lie and say that I don't go, why the fuck am I fighting in a pirate shipyard when the rest of the game has me fighting on a theme consistent to the game's campaign? But with XDefiant, that doesn't really happen. The characters and maps aren't really too serious. I can get shot by a goofy looking hacker girl and not feel taken out of the game by it because I'm kind of a goofy looking soldier guy. Okay, sure, the maps are fun and the characters have goofy themes, but what's the actual gameplay like? Well, it's a lot like old Call of Duty, as you might expect. The movement is much faster though, and the time to kill is pretty low, meaning it takes a lot of shots to kill an opponent. There are several factions in the game, and each one is incredibly useful. Some are more useful than others, though, to be honest, and some are just outright overpowered bullshit, but each faction more or less has its place in the game, and that's nice, so let's take a moment to talk about them all. Each faction comes with a passive trait, 2 abilities, and 1 ultimate. Passive traits are always on and do not go away. Abilities are manually activated and typically are used to get some kind of an edge in battle. Ultimates are earned through the match and can be activated once the gauge has filled. These are pretty overpowered, but in a fun and fair way. Typically, it's good to have a mix of factions on your team in any given game mode. When you enter a match, you can see what factions and abilities your teammates are using. Whenever this happens, I try to pick a different faction and ability than any of my teammates do to kind of level out the playing field. If my whole team is running Phantoms, which happens more often than it should, I'll try to switch it up and go with Echelon or maybe the GSK. Some people don't really get that message and I end up with having 4 fucking Phantoms on my team and I want to end my life, but let's talk about the factions and their abilities and how they all contribute to the game. The Cleaners are one of the most popular factions in the game. Their passive trait, Incendiary Rounds, and focus on dealing damages to enemies makes them an easy choice for new players and for game modes like Team Deathmatch. We'll get to game modes later though, trust me, I have quite a bit to say. The Cleaners' whole shtick is that they really hate germs and their solution to this is to just burn everything. Fun! As a downside of their extra damage with the incendiary rounds, they come with the downside of minus 10% range on all of their weapons. This essentially means that any gun wielded by any other faction will deal slightly more range at longer distances than the cleaners, which I think is a fair counter. Their abilities are the Incinerator Drone and the Firebomb. The Incinerator Drone will fly in the direction the player is facing and explode when it hits a wall or hits its max distance. This explosion can kill enemies, and the flames in the ground can also burn enemies who walk on it. This essentially means that cleaners can lock down a path for a few seconds to buy your team some time to get into a position. Firebomb, on the other hand, is well, it's a bomb of fire that would explode at the player's feet and deal 100 damage to any enemies nearby within a certain radius of the player. There's no way to counter it as of now. I know they're working on a counter to it, but dear God, does it suck right now. The only counter currently in the game is that Phantoms won't die immediately because of their 20 extra health, which we'll get into later. This basically means that if you're really aware, you can kind of take a couple seconds to just shoot the cleaner who dropped the firebomb, and maybe you can get an even kill on them. It just kind of depends on how fast you are. Any other faction, though, is just absolutely screwed and dead. Finally, the Cleaner's ultimate is a flamethrower that just kind of instantly kills anyone within its range. It's extremely easy to use. You don't really have to aim with it. You can just kind of point in the direction and shoot the flames, and then it's done. You get a kill. The next faction I see the most is Phantoms. They, like most factions in this game, come from another Tom Clancy game. Shocking, I know. Phantoms are your sort of rough and tumble soldier with a focus on defensive gameplay. You can sort of think of them as your tank class in any RPG game, if that makes sense. They currently get 20 extra health as their passive trait, but they're about to change that to 15 and give them minus 5% movement speed, so they're changing it a little bit, and I'm very happy to see that. Their abilities are both shields of some kind. One is a mag shield, which I assume means magnetic, but is essentially a deployable cover that you and your teammates can shoot through, but not your enemies. The other ability is a riot shield that kinda sucks in most situations. Like, it can be good if your teammates actually know how to work with it, but dear God, most people don't know how to work together like they should, and thus this ability just gets stomped on in most game modes. Like, if I have a teammate running the shield, I know that if I go behind them, I can basically use them as a meat shield and start taking out enemies, but most people don't really think like that, so it doesn't really work. The Phantom's ultimate is the Aegis, colloquially called the Bubble. It's a mag barrier-esque shield that completely surrounds the player and gives them a pretty cool gun that will instantly kill any enemy that steps into this range. It is very similar to the flamethrower in that regard, just with worse range. I don't have much to say about the Phantoms other than the fact that they're just used way too much, by myself included. During the preseason, they were like the only faction I ran until I started using my dumb pistol shit, in which case I switched to the Cleaners. Although with the new changes coming out for the Phantoms, I'm kind of hoping that it rebalances them a little bit and people won't really want to use them anymore. Recently, though, I found myself using a new faction, the GS Commandos, or GSK for short. The GSK come from another Tom Clancy game. Wow. Their passive trait is that their thick-ass helmet essentially negates all damage done by headshots. This makes it a very situational passive trait. Their abilities, on the other hand, are extremely useful for objective game modes. They could put down shock wire on the ground and place the ADS, which blows away any explosive within the radius of it. The shock wire shocks players when they step on it and deals damage. It can also act as like a source of intel. When you hit someone with the shock wire, you get a little indicator on your crosshair that you've hit someone, so you can kind of figure out where they are based on where you laid down your shock wire. The ADS is just super useful because, well, in the preseason, before we had the GSK, a lot of game modes suffered from this problem where like throwing grenades on an objective would just kill the entire enemy team, and it got really annoying to try to hold any objective for any amount of time because there are like 5 grenades being thrown at you. The shit just sucked. The ADS just stops that entirely. Finally, the GSK's ultimate is a riot shield very similar to the Phantoms. However, this one can stun enemies via a very bright-ass light, and you could shoot people with a 3-round burst pistol. This is extremely useful when trying to push an objective that enemies are on or trying to keep enemies at bay. Shooting your pistol exposes you to enemy fire, so it may be wise to simply flash your enemy's vision and let your teammates handle the shooting part. Like any riot shield, this kind of depends on your teammates. If you've got no one there with you, it takes an incredible amount of skill to not die, as any enemy flanking you will just end your life. But if you have teammates with you, you can be a really good distraction and you can get down some kills. It's really fun. Next, let's talk about DedSec, a faction that is actually not from a Tom Clancy game, but actually from, what's that game called? Oh yeah, Watch Dogs. DedSec is known for one thing and one thing alone: their stupid dumb shit spider bot. I'll go quickly over everything else because I just want to rant about the spider bot, so let's go over everything else. The DedSec passive ability is to just regenerate grenades. Cool, pretty simple, and actually very, very useful. Their first ability is to hack other people's abilities, which can be really useful when countering things like phantom shields. Their ultimate basically just makes it so that the enemy team can't use any of their abilities or their ultimate for a while, and kind of does some wacky shit to their vision and, gets rid of their minimap. Got it? Cool, pretty simple. Okay, let's talk about the damn spider bots. The spider bot, as you can tell from the name, is a spider-like robot that when deployed will instantly track down the nearest enemy player and cling to their face, immobilizing them and blocking their vision and dealing damage. This thing can run faster than any player, so you're not outrunning it. If you can see it, it's coming for you. The only thing you can do is to shoot it before it gets to you, and if you miss, you're dead. What's worse is that many players simply follow around their little spider bots until it finds someone, so while you're shooting at the little thing, the enemy just pops around the corner and takes you out. The obvious counter to this would be to try to shoot it before you shoot the enemy, but if you do that, the spider bot will probably just jump on you because you'll miss because it's so small, and then the enemy will just shoot you anyway. For a new player that isn't good at the game, I can understand how it's sort of a crutch. It allows you to get basically free kills every once in a while by just having a bot cling to people's faces. On the one hand, I can see how this helps, but on the other hand, I think it can really hinder someone's ability to learn and get better. I don't think your skill is going to improve if you rely on a little bot to get kills for you. I'm sorry, I really hate the spider bot. But you know what else I hate? The ability for my enemies to see me through walls, which is exactly why I don't like the Echelon Faction very much. The Echelon are a stealth and intel-based faction who have annoyed the shit out of any player, especially in the preseason. Their passive trait is that they do not appear on the minimap at all, no matter what they do. Suppressor, no suppressor, they are not visible on the map. It's a very useful trait, and I think it's pretty fair. What isn't as fair is their ability, the Intel Suit. For a long time, this ability was really overpowered. Every 3 seconds, it would reveal enemies through walls for about 2.7 seconds in a radius around the player using the suit. As you can imagine, this made it extremely easy to not only spot where enemies were, but also just straight up track their movements through walls and get the jump on them. Luckily, this has been changed to where only the player who uses the intel suit can see enemies through walls, but now it just pops up as little dots on everyone else's minimap. Thank God. They also changed the time where you could see enemies through walls to 1 second and the radius ping to every 4 seconds from 3. This is great. It makes it so much better, and to the point that I actually don't really have any complaints about the intel suit anymore. It's actually very useful and feels very balanced. Their other ability is the digital ghillie suit, which is okay. Like, it makes you totally invisible unless you start like shooting your gun or sprinting. I don't really have many complaints about it. However, their ultimate is pretty fucking insane. They get an instant kill pistol and can see enemies through walls for the entire duration of their ultimate. This can be really useful if you want to just hop on an objective and just get a lot of kills really quickly. The only thing that this takes is decent aim. You just need to be able to aim decently to get shots in. Other than that, it's really simple. You can just snipe enemies with it. There is no way to counter this. The enemy knows where you are, and if you try hiding, they can just come find you, and it's an instant kill. There is nothing you can do about it. You just have to sit there and die. You're just screwed. Finally, that leaves us with the Libertad, a group of freedom fighters from the Far Cry series. Nice, not Tom Clancy, let's fucking go. They're the healers of the game, and I don't really have a whole ton to say about them. Their passive ability will heal themselves and nearby teammates slightly faster than the default health regeneration. Their abilities both heal themselves and their teammates, and their ultimate doubles the health of nearby teammates and give them an insanely fast health regen. It's probably the least annoying faction in the game alongside the GSK. Good factions. They recently just announced the Highwayman faction, and they've got a bunch of cool abilities that you can go figure out what they do for yourself. I didn't have time to write it in the script because it's not in the script yet because they haven't announced what they do just yet. Anyway, you sick of factions yet? Because I spent a lot of time talking about them. I sure am. Let's talk about every American's wet dream, gun ownership. XDefiant is set in a sort of modern but slightly futuristic setting, allowing for a wide range of weaponry that doesn't really reach that silly sci-fi land. All of the guns are real-life guns and popular in other shooters. Of course, we have popular designations of small arms such as the assault rifle, submachine gun, light machine gun, marksman rifle, snipers, and shotguns, as well as handguns as your secondaries. Each class of weapons will be ideal for different types of engagement. In a close quarters maps, perhaps a submachine gun or shotgun will do you the best. In a map with medium or close engagements and need a gun that can handle most situations well, an assault rifle will do just fine. Where this falls apart, as it does with any other shooter, is snipers. Sniper rifles are by far the hardest guns to get right in any shooter. They need to be great at long ranges, but easy to counter due to their extremely slow handling and fire rate. More often than not, sniper rifles just get used as well, pretty much any other kind of weapon. People will take them into close quarter encounters and one-shot an enemy because of the high damage output. It can outclass every other gun in close range with the exception of a shotgun, but it beats the shotgun in anything beyond a short distance combat. The issue with snipers is essentially that they are always too good when put into the right hands. I can use them in a close quarters map like Echelon HQ and throw on a variable scope to have just the easiest time of my life in picking through snipers. I don't care what anyone says, snipers in XDefiant are really easy to use. The only one that is sort of bad is the M44, it's just kind of weak. The TAC-50 and the L115 beat it by quite a bit. Beyond this, the guns feel great overall. Shooting them is fun, customizing them with all the different parts is really cool, and I love the way the different attachments change the look of a weapon. And a lot of the buyable weapon skins don't look too bad either, although some of them are kind of mid. Gunplay is by far the most important thing in any shooter, so if the shooting doesn't feel good, then the game is pretty much dead on arrival. XDefiant nails gunplay about 99% of the time. Gunfights feel like actual fights and not just who shot who first, like other games that suffer from a high time to kill. You have to ensure that time to kill isn't too fast, otherwise people will complain about gunfights being too short, and if it's too low, people will complain about the fact that the guns feel too weak. XDefiant really nails that balance if you ask me. This slow time to kill is by far the single best part of XDefiant. I just absolutely love it. Anyway, I'd like to discuss customization a little bit more. Most free-to-play shooters will allow you to buy gun skins, and XDefiant is no different. However, XDefiant also has a gun mastery system taken straight from Call of Duty that allows players to unlock camos free if they put enough work into it. At level 100, you get access to the bronze camo, which looks more like copper, let's be real. 150, you get silver, 200 gold, and then you get some fancy ones at 300 and up. 300 gives you this sort of pink titanium look to it, and the next two are animated that kind of switch between multiple colors. It's really cool that the devs let you unlock this stuff for free, and it rewards people for sticking with the same gun and getting really good with it. I just wish that XDefiant had more things to do than just leveling up guns. I wish that, some skins could be unlocked via challenges like getting headshots or hipfire kills or things of that nature. Because once you hit around level 40-ish or so, you kind of run out of attachments to unlock, so you're just spending the next 60 levels just doing nothing with that gun and hoping to get to level 100 to get that cool camo. I will say though, getting my AK-47 up to level 350 and my Desert Eagle up to level 200 was really cool and felt pretty rewarding. I had a blast getting the Desert Eagle up to that level. Using pistols as a primary is really fucking fun, and if you really want to get your skill up, you should try it sometime. It can put you at a massive disadvantage, so you have to force yourself to be better at the game. I seriously, unironically, recommend doing this if you want to get better at the game. As a final note on weaponry, I want to go through some of the guns that I really like or really hate. We'll start off simple, the M4A1. This is the first AR that players will use, and it's really easy to see why. It's got good damage, really low recoil, and it's just easy and fun to use. If you're new to shooters, it's a great gun to start with. Another AR that I love is the AK-47, as you can tell by the fact that I have it really high leveled up. It's got a much harder recoil to handle than the M4, but it has the highest damage output of all the ARs. If you can make it more accurate via attachments, you can really go through some people. The MP7 is overpowered as hell, and I see it used way too often. I know they nerfed it, but I don't think it's enough. Every time I see someone with a maxed out MP7, I cringe. It's by far the easiest and cheesiest gun to use. Like, the ACR has a similar problem where it's an extremely easy gun to use. It's just not fun. I just don't like seeing it. For the light machine guns, I'm a huge fan of the M60. Once you level it up enough, you can unlock a sniper scope and just piss off people from absurdly long ranges. You don't really need this scope, but it's just really fun to use it. The SVD is hands down the best marksman rifle in the game. Slapping a heavy barrel on it means you can one-shot most people if you hit them in the head, which is really fun, and it's kind of the reason I got it to level 100. A surprising turnaround for me is the M44. I know I mentioned it earlier and I said it was kind of weak, but I really disliked it when I first started playing. I felt it was super weak and unusable, but after I grew some balls and got more accurate and I forced myself to use it, I really enjoy it. I still think that the L115 is the objectively better option of all the three snipers. It's got that sweet middle ground of high damage and fast handling that I think a sniper should have. Finally, I think the double barrel shotgun is just fun. It's got a learning curve to it, but if you can do it, you can be really deadly. With all the fun in the world though, there is a massive problem that XDefiant has failed to address. You might have noticed earlier that I said that shooting was fun 99% of the time. While I could excuse you for thinking that that was just because, nothing is perfect, that would be an incorrect assumption. The other 1% I was referring to is actually a real thing and is very annoying. Hit registration. It is far too often that I will die around a corner or behind cover. There is some serious problems with the netcode of this game, and I find myself dying just way too often behind cover or when I've left my enemy's line of sight. It is a serious problem, and it is what you see people complain about the most online. The devs say they're working on it, and I don't know if it's gotten any better since the game's launch or since the betas, but it has just persisted for a long time, and I know that a lot of people complain about it, and to be honest, I don't have too much of an issue with it. It doesn't really bother me that much. It doesn't feel like there are many gunfights where I lose because of that netcode or because of that hit registration. What ends up happening most often though is when I'm using something like a marksman rifle up close and I think I got 2 shots off on someone, but really I just got 1 and I got on my end the signal for the second hit marker, but on their end and the server's end, that shot never went through before I died. That happens a little more frequently than I would like it to, and I don't really like that. But other than that issue, it's really good 99% of the time. I think now would be a good time to touch on the different game modes that XDefiant offers. There was a standard team deathmatch where 2 teams compete to just kill each other, but it's kind of boring, you know. Alongside that, there are a ton of objective-based modes. You got stuff like Capture the Flag, Domination, Occupy, and other wacky ones like Hotshot or Escort. I know some of these names make zero sense and they tell you nothing, but I promise you they're fun for the most part. The only game modes I don't find too fun are the 2 linear game modes, that being Zone Control and Escort. These game modes have their own maps, and I'm not a fan of these modes. I played them a lot when I first started because of the welcome playlist, but as the game has gone on, they've become really shitty and just not fun for me. Zone Control is a game mode where players have to go through waves of zones and capture them from the enemy team. The other team's job is to defend the zones and stop the team from capturing them. Escort is pretty similar, however, players must move a little robot dog to their end of the map, and the defending team must stop them from moving said dog. This can be fun, and I can understand how people like it. I'm just personally not a fan. I don't like it. It's just a me thing. Maybe it's just me, but a majority of the time that I play these game modes, I just see phantoms all the time, just running their shields. And maybe that's a me problem, maybe that's a problem with the game mode, I don't really know. The only way to really counter this is just EMP grenades or the DedSec's hacking ability. Funny enough, Escort is one of the few game modes where I feel that the Phantom's riot shield is actually really useful if your teammates cooperate. Moving on to ranked play, I'm not a fan. I'm not a super competitive guy. I mean, I do rage and get mad at the game, but ranked play in XDefiant just isn't really fun for me. I know that they've recently made some changes to it to make it better, but I really just can't justify going up through the ranks in ranked. Ranked is a 4v4 mode instead of the typical 6v6, which is nice and makes it easier to coordinate, but I would never ever recommend playing with randoms. I would always play with a squad of 4, or once you get leveled up enough, a squad of 2. It's just far better than playing with complete randoms. It absolutely sucks. Overall, I would be more inclined to play ranked if I had people who played with me. So, hey, maybe you should hit that referral code down in the description, and then maybe we could play together. It might be fun. It's okay. I suck at it. I suck at the game, but I'll carry us through for a bit, okay? I promise. Finally, I'd like to talk about how the game gets its money. Free-to-play games always have some way of getting money. Obviously, otherwise they wouldn't really exist. Typically, these come in the form of microtransactions or battle passes. Every weapon, character, and faction can be unlocked in the game for free within a reasonable amount of time. You do not need to buy the battle pass or anything like that to unlock these factions or guns. That's really great, and I love to see it. The only thing you're really getting from the battle pass is cosmetics. However, when you buy a gun skin from the shop, it will instantly unlock that gun for you. And I don't like that. But I can kind of understand why they would do that. If someone's going to pay real money for a gun skin, you probably want to just give them the gun so they can use it. I can understand that. Some of these skins, though, like I said earlier, simply don't line up with the prices. Like, I'm not paying $10 for that piece of shit. I'm sorry, I'm just not. No offense to the artists, but like $10? I mean, I bet the artists don't really, pick the prices, but goddamn, you cannot expect me to pay that much. I will fully admit, though, full transparency, I have spent over 3 digits of money in this game. Now, it's less than $200, but the fact that it's even 3 digits is a little bit shameful. To be fair, though, $70 of that was spent on the Founders Pack. I really loved the game, and I wanted to support it, so I got that Founders Pack. You might say that that money just goes up to the higher-ups at Ubisoft, and to that I say it very well could do that. However, I think that if the Ubisoft executives see that people are willing to spend money on the game, they're less likely to fire people or lay people off, and they're more likely to invest in the project that will make more money. It sucks that this is the stranglehold that the game is on, but I understand it. If this game lasts for a couple years or more, I'll definitely have had my money's worth. Now, if I end up spending like over $200 on this free game, I might actually just put myself in capitalism jail. Horrible fucking financial decision on my part, honestly. At the very least, if you like old Call of Duty, I think you should give XDefiant a try. It's brought back a lot of old COD vibes for me, and given me experiences that I haven't felt in a shooter since Black Ops 3 like a decade ago. I may get absolutely pissed at this game because, I suck sometimes, but I usually have the time of my life playing it. When I downloaded the game the day after it came out, I had no idea I would enjoy it as much as I do. If you want to play XDefiant, there's a link in the description to get you playing. And if you reach level 10, I'll unlock some cool shit, and you'll unlock some cool shit, and it's completely free, so please do that. It'd be really cool. I want those cool rewards. It's a free game, so what have you got to lose? Time? Brain cells? Please, you're already watching one of my videos. You don't really have any of those left. If you want to play with me sometime, you could join my Discord in the description below, and we could party up. I might even add like an XDefiant role so people can be added to that. I don't know. I might do that. It might be fun. I want to get back to streaming this game on the channel too. It's a lot of fun, and I just really enjoy playing it. So anyway, thank you guys for watching this video, and don't worry, we're not leaving Minecraft content forever. I just wanted to make this video about a game that I really enjoy. So I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye bye!